Welcome to the fifth episode of the series The Box of Islam. Today we want to bring out of the box things related to the life story of Muhammad or the biography of Muhammad, and many question marks related to this story and this biography. From my viewpoint, Muslims are captivated or imprisoned within the life story of Muhammad and the personality of Muhammad. It has impacted Muslims severely. Everything he did, everything he said, and every mistake he committed are still having consequent mistakes until our very day. But the opposite is true as well. The personality of Muhammad and the biography of Muhammad is imprisoned inside the Muslim's jail. This prison is the prison of over-sanctification or the prison of glorification. As the Muslims say it anything but the Prophet of Allah. Don't criticize the Prophet. Whoever criticizes him must die. This has reached extraordinary levels in the Islamic theology, that the one who curses God can repent and his repentance accepted and do not have to die. That's all. He repents to God. But the one who cursed Muhammad, even with repentance, he must be killed according to Islamic theology. Although he repented, he must be killed. Muslim clerics are backing this viewpoint with many examples borrowed from Muhammad's life regarding this issue. For example, the narration exists in the book Sunan Abi Dawud that there was a slave woman. The story begins when the Prophet was on his way to the mosque. He found a lady murdered and dropped in front of the mosque. The Prophet asked, "By the word of God on you, who did this?" A blind man approached and said, "I killed her, you Prophet of Allah. She is my slave woman, and I have from her 2 boys like 2 pearls. But she cursed you, you the Prophet of Allah, so I forbade her from doing that. Then she cursed you again, and I couldn't stand it. So, I killed her." Then Muhammad stood up and said, "You all are witnesses on that. Her blood is legal to be shed." Weird understanding of justice. A really weird understanding of justice. We are dealing here with homicide of a human being. A woman. This man who killed her could have been killed her for any other reason. So he comes to the Prophet and tells him, "Because she cursed you, I killed her." And this one reason alone is enough for her blood to be shed according to Muhammad. Where is the trial? Has nobody else heard a thing? No, it is shedding the blood of human beings. But the story is there in Muhammad narrations. Whether if this story is true or not, it is there and taken as evidence for Islamic legislations. Ibn Taymiyyah took it as evidence in his book Al-Sarm al-Maslul ala Sha'atam ar-Rasul, which means the withdrawn finishing sword against this who curses the Prophet. And take many such stories. The consequence of glorifying Muhammad like this is that you cannot study the problem of Islam nor the problem of the emergence of Islam. Because every time you get close to that they ask you, are you going to criticize the Prophet or what? And who are you to do that? You contempt religions. You deny what is known as necessary from the religion. Hence the Muslims are jailed in the jail of Muhammad and Muhammad is jailed in the jail of Muslims in a combination that they do not know how to get rid of each other's. From my viewpoint, there can never be something called purification of Islamic literature nor a reform without getting rid from this holiness of Muhammad and the Quran. And this is what we are trying to do in the coming episodes. We will try to bring out from the box stories from Muhammad's life and from the Quran, and discuss them using the normal human reasoning. We neither curse anybody nor we want to make troubles with anybody. The life story of Muhammad has several turning points. These turning points affected the psychology of Muhammad. This is the aspect that Muslims avoid to tackle. The question is it possible that Muhammad had psychological and existential problems? Muslims say no, no, no. The Prophet is perfect. No, he is a human, the same as me and you. He had humanitarian, psychological, and instinctual motives. And if you understand this, you will be able to understand how the Islamic laws and the Quran developed and how Muhammad's biography developed. Alright, let's turn now to the turning points that shaped Muhammad's personality. The first turning point, of course, was the death of his mother while he was 6 years old. We know from his biographies that Muhammad's father died before his birth. And this has its own impact, which we will talk about later regarding who was his father exactly, how he died and what is the lineage of Muhammad exactly. We will tackle this in a complete episode. So his mother died while traveling when Muhammad was 6 years old, and he was with her. He kept on crying on her chest while she was dead in the middle of the desert. He was alone with her. Of course, this is an extraordinary existential crisis for Muhammad, that he became a two-parent orphan, and became alone in the middle of the desert. The dearest ones in his life have left. All those who provide him safety and a higher example have left him alone. All those who can give him safety and guidance in life have left. So he has been raised on his own like that as a two-parent orphan. The second turning point is related to this point. What is the second turning point? The second point is his marriage to Khadija. His marriage to Khadija at the age of 25. Of course, marriage age of 25 for an Arab man in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century is very late. 25 years usually have about 6 children at this age. Why Muhammad marriage got late? This is a big question mark because Muhammad himself tells Muslims, "You the youth of the Muslims, whoever is able to practice sex, let him get married." Which means the younger you get married the better. To keep yourself from sin, according to Muslims. And they tell you that marriage is the half of the religion. So why he didn't get married until the age of 25 years? We read in Muhammad's biography that, when Muhammad was young, he asked the hand of the daughter of his uncle Abu Talib. Abu Talib is the one who raised him after his mother and his grandfather Abdul Muttalib both died. His uncle Abu Talib was in charge of caring about him. So he asked the hand of Han, which is the daughter of Abu Talib. But Abu Talib refused. Why? We read in the biographies after that he was called the truthful, the keeper of Kaaba secrets. They were consulting him. He was from the family of Hashim who were taking the fifth of the war shares, the family of Hashim who ran the water supply for the pilgrims. So why this truthful and secret keeper man, when asked the hand of the daughter of his uncle refused. Then his uncle wed his daughter to another man called Hubayra. So Muhammad gets upset and whines to his uncle, "You get Hubayra married and left me." He speaks the logic of a servile defeated man. Understanding this is very important to understand the psychology of the prophecy that will come after. That is, this person was really refused by his people. This person was not loved. He had problems with his own family. His own uncle refused to wed him his daughter. And when Muhammad asked his uncle, "You wed Hubayra and left me," his uncle answers, "The noble one for the noble one," indicating to Muhammad, "You Muhammad are not noble." Alright, the other turning point happened at Muhammad's marriage to Khadija. He had the same problem. According to Muhammad's biography, Khadija is 15 years older than him. Khadija was 40 when he was 25. At 40 she was married once and became a widow once. She has children from her previous marriages. A woman in this situation in our days in any Arab country, it is very hard for her to find any man to get married to. Consider that Muhammad was from the leaders of Mecca, from the family of Hashim, the truthful and the secret keeper, and all these beautiful things told about him. But her father refused. Her father rejected Muhammad. In the book of Musnad Ahmad we read the story also in the book Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya by Ibn Kathir. Why her father rejected Muhammad? For Khadija's father Muhammad was not credible. Who is Muhammad? The story told by Musnad Ahmad tells us that Khadija kept on giving her father wine until he got drunk. Then she put on him new cloths and dyed his chin with henna. When her father woke up the next day he found them got married. Khadija's father got mad and wanted to bring a weapon and do things. So Khadija told him, "Don't create a scandal."
فهو كان هيتجنن وهيجيب سلاح وعايز يقاتل وعايز يعمل.
In short, when a woman needs such desperate method to get married to a man, this is definitely indicates a problems with this man. What exactly was this problem? We don't know. A lot of things had been removed from Muhammad's biographies and kept as secrets. Hence, we cannot realize what exactly was that problem. What is the next turning point in Muhammad's life? Being married to Khadija and started living a stable life. Khadija made a trade man out of Muhammad. She made him travel to Levant and he possessed some money. Supposedly, it's all fine since his life got stabilized and everything should be fine. When Muhammad was 40, he had a crisis. Nobody knows what it was. When a person leaves his job and house and goes to sit in the desert in some mountain and locks himself inside a grotto, this shows that this man is running away from a problem. We do not know what this crisis was. Could be marital, psychological, or mental disease hit him. We do not know. All we know is that there is a turning point happened when Muhammad was 40. This crisis made Muhammad do very weird things. What are these strange things he was doing? Muhammad started saying that the rocks are talking. He says that while I'm walking, I say to the rocks, "Peace of God on you." The rocks answer me, "Peace and the mercy of God on you." Anybody who says such thing in our days, we take him to a psychiatric. The one who says that I was sitting in the grotto when a man entered and grabbed my neck. He strangled me and told me to read from a book and strangled me again. If such a man nowadays comes home in this situation to his wife, she would take him to a shrink and tell the shrink that he has hallucinations. There are things in psychology called visual hallucinations in addition to hearing hallucinations. This is a disease. But at Muhammad's time, there was no psychological rehabilitation center in Mecca, nor there was doctors to consult. So the people were always explaining such visions in one of two opinions. The more reasonable people were calling this a disease or madness, and the others were explaining this as inspiration from heaven and stories of that nature. We will revisit the subject of Quran and inspiration later because now we talk about the turning points only. The important conclusion is that Muhammad was a genius and sick personality at the same time. Why is that? Because even from his sickness, he could have invested in it and create something good and nice out of it. Modern science proves that the psychological and mental disorders can sometimes produce symptoms or side effects that look exactly as inspiration. The sick person views nice visions. He feels as if he touched one of the heaven's secrets. He feels as if a superpower is speaking to him, and provide him/her with information that no one else has ever saw or heard. There is so many mentally sick people, whether if they ill with schizophrenia, epilepsy, or hallucination, these people encounter things that are very similar to inspiration, and their spirituality is very high. Because these personalities are sensitive by nature.
أشياء شبيهة جدا بالوحي وبتكون روحانياتهم عالية جدا لأن الشخصيات دي بطبيعتها بتكون شخصيات حساسة.
I don't want to tackle Muhammad's personality as a violent criminal personality. No. What I say is that the basic personality of Muhammad is a rejected orphan person who felt insulted and lost everything at childhood. So he always wanted to make up for these losses. So the inspiration for him was the same as the grotto of Hira, a hiding place. The same can be said about all women he married. They were a hiding place for him after his mother's death.
زي نفس كل النساء اللي تزوجهم بعد كده كان مكان يستخبى فيه بعد أمه ما ماتت.
I wish when we the analysts deal with Muhammad's personality that we don't forget the human side of it. All his actions had something related to his inner mind, something related to his childhood or something related to his search for gratitude. His desire that someone believe in him and stay around him.
يعني يكون محيط بيه.
The next turning point which had big impact on him happened when Muhammad got his sick hallucinations. Khadija succeeded to convince him that he got inspiration, although Muhammad was convinced that he'd been touched by the devil. It was not the first thing came to Muhammad's mind that he has inspiration and God has spoken to him. No, he said the devil touched me. And he was going to commit suicide. The Islamic books telling that he stood on top of the mountain and wanted to throw himself. Until he saw Gabriel sitting on a chair between the sky and the ground, look at the ideas, and told him, you are the prophet of God, don't kill yourself and get down from the mountain. Khadija was the one who was able to absorb his shock. Since there was no psychic centers, Khadija became the Muhammad's psychic center. She started telling him that this is inspiration and you are prophet and this is a good and beautiful thing. After that he calmed down and starts using his genius capability to turn his sickness into something effective, and to produce and invest in his sickness. And he started calling people to his call. At the time there was no new religion. It was called Muhammad's call or call for monotheism. Till this time there was nothing called Islam at all. The time passed on Muhammad but without success. He left his job and Khadija was spending on him and that's it. For whole 10 years he was jobless and brought no nickel home. He was just calling and calling but no one listened or accepted him. He was able to bear all this because Khadija was psychologically, ethically and socially supporting him. Muhammad had nobody but her. Even his family or the tribe that he thought he belongs to, Bani Hashim, had lots of problems with him. Was he really belongs to Bani Hashim? This is a big problem that we are going to revisit later. Was he really belong to Bani Hashim? They tell you there were problems about it. At the 10th year of what so-called inspiration, Khadija died. This represents a horrific turning point in Muhammad's life. With her death Muhammad went to the extreme politically, theologically, ethically and mentally. Weird things started happening to him after Khadija's death. The first thing happened to him when he claimed that he visited the city of Tif, and in the city of Tif he says they beaten him and thrown rocks on him. Of course this is a very illogical thing because what was known about Arab tribes is that they are generous to any visitor for at least to avoid war with his tribe and because they do not know which tribe he belongs to. It is clear that either he was distracted or he gave them the impression that he is a stranger, otherwise they wouldn't throw rocks on him. On his way back to Mecca from Tif he gets this inspiration. Quran 72:1 say, I have been inspired that there listened a company of the jinn, and they said, we have heard a marvelous Quran that guides to the right direction, and we believe therein. This is a crucial point to understand Muhammad's personality, psychology, and crisis. He was a person that wishes of people to believe in him. But neither his relatives in Mecca nor the strangers in Tif believed in him. So who will believe in him? The jinn, a completely different species other than humans. Furthermore they started to crowd around him as brigades of jinn. This thing had never happened to him in Mecca. And directly after the jinn, what should come next? Another miracle of Surat al-Isra. That he ride a strange bird, half mule and half donkey. He went to the farthest mosque, prayed as prayer leader in all the prophets including Abraham, the father of all prophets, and Adam, the father of all humans. What does that mean? The highest honoring, as they say. So these are the things that the Muslim hears and reads in Muhammad biography and let it all go. There was a joke I used to hear that a kid in the schools tells his father about his teacher who told the class a very strange story. The father asks, what did he tell you? The student, the prophet was asleep, then Gabriel came and they took a rocket to visit the sky. The father says, what rocket? And what nonsense are you talking about?
وبعدين
The
ركبوا
student
صاروخ وطلعوا
replies,
السما.
So what if I tell you what
قال له
he
صاروخ ايه
said that they
وكلام
were
فارغ يا
writing?
ابني، ايه الكلام اللي انت بتقوله
What
ده؟
would you
قال له
say?
امال لو قلت لك قال لي بيركبوا ايه كانوا راكبين ايه بالظبط كنت هتعمل ايه؟
So we hear the story that he was
فاحنا
riding
بنسمع
half
القصه
mule and
بتاعت
half
انه ركب
donkey,
بغل، نص
and he
بغل ونص
went to
حمار،
Jerusalem and
وراح على
prayed by
القدس
them.
وصلى بيهم،
Then he
وبعدين
went
طلع
up to the
السماء
sky and up to Sidratu
وصعد إلى
al-Muntaha,
سدرة
watched the
المنتهى
heaven and hell,
واتفرج على
then
الجنة
came
والنار،
back,
وبعدين رجع
and his
وكان
bed was still
فراشه
warm.
دافي.
And
وبنحتفل بليلة
we
الإسراء
celebrate the
والمعراج.
night of Isra and Miraj.
ولا واحد
Not a
يفكر
single
يقول
reader
طب
thought
مش
that this whole
ممكن
story was a
الرؤية
psychological
دي أو
reflection
القصة
of
دي
the
كلها
rejection and loss that
إنها
Mohammed
انعكاس
just
نفسي
had.
للرفض
Mohammed had
وللفقدان.
just lost
واحد
his
لسه
wife
فاقد
whom was the
زوجته اللي
dearest
هي
thing for him and lost his
أعز شيء
uncle
عنه.
Abu
حتى
Talib
على
who
فكرة
died
عمه
at
أبو
that same
طالب مات في
month.
نفس الشهر
All
مع
people
خديجة.
supporting him have
يعني
left
كل
him
اللي كانوا
alone.
بيساندوه راحوا.
Then he went to Tea
وراح
to be thrown
الطائف
by rocks.
حدفوه
The
بالطين.
logical thing is that this human
فالمنطقي إن
started
الإنسان
hallucinating.
يبتدي في الهذيان.
He starts to
يبتدي
think the
يفكر
same
بقى
way of
جنون العظمة،
megalomania,
إنه مش بس إن
that
هو
not only the
الجن
jinn
قالوا إن
believed
لا،
in him,
ده
but
ربنا يجيب
also,
له
God has
يعطل
jammed the
قوانين
natural laws
الكون
of the universe and made
الطبيعية
him fly on a
ويخليه يطير على
horse,
حصان
fly to
ويروح
Jerusalem, and then to the
القدس وبعدين
heaven,
يطلع
see
السماء
things,
ويشوف وبعدين
and
يرجع
comes
تاني.
back again.
ده
This is the
نفسية إنسان
psychology of
مريض
a sick person who has been rejected and
مرفوض
isolated.
منبوذ.
Muhammad always
فهو
go back to the
الطفل
personality
دايما
of the child who lost
محمد
his
دايما
mother in his
بيرجع
early
للطفل اللي
years.
فقد أمه في
I
حياته.
always denote
أنا
that
دايما بقول
huge
محمد
quantity of violence
يعني
that Muhammad did
كم
as a
العنف
result
اللي
of
عنده
losing his
كان من
childhood that
فقدان
he felt.
الطفولة اللي حس بيها.
He goes back
فبيرجع
to this grotto of
محمد
inspiration to run away
إلى
from all these losses that happened to
هذا
him. So he
الغار
starts dreaming about
اللي هو
heaven,
اسمه الوحي عشان
inspiration,
يهرب من
and
كل
views
الفقدان
strange
اللي حصل له.
stories that
فيبتدي
happened to him
يحلم
in order
بالسماء
to tell the people
ويحلم
that he
بالوحي
belongs to another
ويشوف
place.
القصص الغريبة اللي بتحصل له عشان يقول للناس يعني أنا أنتمي إلى مكان آخر.
The substitution for Muhammad's losses always comes from above. Wait for us in the coming episodes. We will talk and bring out from the box new things about the life story of Muhammad. Watch us on YouTube at Hamid.tv and on the Facebook, The Box of Islam. I wish to see you in good shape.